Greetings, everyone. This mini lesson is to introduce the final part of the annotations, active reading, and bibliography task. So in this handout, you will find an overview of what this task is, and I'm just going to get started. So citation lists. I want to talk a little bit about different types of citation lists and two different citation styles, APA and MLA. And so I want to point out that citation list is exactly what it may or may not sound like. It's a list of your sources on a document. And we can format those citations, that bibliographical information like author, last name, first name, and title, and where you found it. There are different ways to format it. One is APA style and another is MLA style. So in this document, which I encourage you to read through, we have a description, and I'm just going to go there first. I'm not going to read all of this to you because you have this document in front of you. So I'm not going to read it. But when it comes to this particular task, so you should have already completed parts 1 and 2 of the Anchor Project task, annotations, and AB assignment. AB stands for annotated bibliography. Just giving you a quick link here. So it'll take you back to that document, which you should have already downloaded. So if you completed part 1 and 2, you are now ready to complete part 3 of this task. Parts 1 and 2 focus on close reading texts that you were assigned. You had to summarize them, and that's where you find the main ideas. That is a very important writing skill to make sure you practice. And then I also had you apply information from what you read to how you see yourself as a writer and to learning outcomes in the class. And you may have also had to do one other thing with this Jackson text because we read that collaboratively. And if you haven't already, you'll probably soon have to post for your classmates some content that you read from that text. So you need both parts 1 and 2 to complete this part of this task. So we've already practiced active reading, and now we're going to work on creating this working annotated bibliography and actually just bibliographies. So when you're done, you will have an annotated bibliography. So while this lesson is meant to help you take reading like a writer to another level and practice reading like a learner, I just want to point out that learning as a research process takes time. So anytime you have to do research, it's not ever going to be something that you can do really quick in say a few minutes or so. Think about research is taking time, and you need the tools for which to do that. The more planning you have, the less stress we will encounter. And there are a bunch of steps in the research process that some of us find boring or initially dismiss as busy work because we don't immediately see the value of slowing down to use research tools. However, it's important to do that and spend time thinking about how we learn. And so hopefully this project will help you prepare for the more research intense work you have to do later in the semester. So take parts 1, 2, and 3 of this task as practice. So don't overstress about them. Do the best you can. Learn from them so that when you have to create bibliographies or do research for other aspects of your writing life, you can do that with more confidence. Okay, for this assignment, I already mentioned some of the things, the tools that you're going to need. So I also have given you a couple links here. So this takes you to a PDF version of chapter 9 from Empowered. And then this takes you to the Purdue OWL. This is one of our required sources. So it is basically the reference book on all kinds of writing rules. So I'm going to open this tab in the new window, and that link takes you to the sitemap, which is basically the index of, it serves like the index of a book, but for a website. So if you ever see a sitemap on a website, it does the same job as like an index does, which is way better than a table of contents. The index will give you lots more detail. So I scroll down here to research and citation, because this is the area where I use this area too, because I don't have committed to memory all the ways to cite different kinds of sources using different citation styles. So here you see we have APA style, which is the 7th edition. The reason you will see editions is because the governing bodies, there's a group of people out there somewhere who are experts. They get together and they decide what the rules are going to be. When they change the rules, you will see the edition change. So this is APA style edition 7. And then you'll see over here, MLA style. So these are 2 different documentation styles. We use APA, MLA most often. And in this course, you get introduced to both of them. The course preference is MLA because usually writing is housed in English departments, and English is a humanities subject. So MLA style documentation is usually used in fields in areas of study that are the humanities, whereas APA style documentation is used in the social sciences. So if you are in a psychology course, your instructor may expect you to already know that you're supposed to write any research in that class in APA style. We don't often get a class that we're in will take the time to teach us this stuff. The idea is, as a learner, you know your resources, or you're learning where to go to get this information. And so the Purdue OWL is one of the best resources for anything having to do with writing. And now that it's online, Purdue University stays pretty on top of changes. And I actually want to point out that there are other documentation styles, AMA, ASA, Chicago style. There's something called IEEE. I don't know anything about these styles, but I can tell you that if I needed to use them in a particular field, say, I think EEE might be, let's just see what it is. Oh yeah, it's for engineers. Now, if I were in that field, I may be expected to use this, and I know nothing about it, but I can figure out from using the resources like Purdue OWL how to cite my engineering paper in this style. So using your resources and becoming familiar, because this is what we have to do as lifelong learners. So this resource is for you to use. I want to point out that when I am reviewing your use of APA or MLA, so how you are documenting things, I'm going to come to Purdue OWL to double check. And I say that because you should come to Purdue OWL to also double check. So for example, if you use other tools to help you, say, create your citations, double check what they tell you against Purdue OWL. Also, ask questions of your instructor. This is another good reason to use your writing center and your friends who know this stuff perhaps better than you. Use your sources, but double check them. So that's my overview of these 2 tools. Tasks and objectives. So for this part of the assignment, by the time you're done, you should be able to explain the use and purpose of citation choices. Again, we are looking at APA and MLA. So you will write one APA bibliography and one MLA annotated bibliography, 2 different kinds of bibliographies. And this is meant to make you practice 2 different documentation styles that happen to be the most popular styles. Other styles are important too. And hopefully you will practice some citation skills that you will need to document that you know how to use later in the semester. And then by the end of this task, these are the 4 things you should be able to do. So this would be a good point to stop and take a moment to think about what this task is and perhaps ask questions. directions for the bibliography assignment. So I ask you to answer the prompts listed below for yourself so that you know the answers. And you should use course tools to help you answer the prompts listed below. You do not have to turn in answers. However, there is a bonus opportunity. So if you want to get bonus opportunities, yes, you will type responses to all of these prompts, and there will be directions for how to submit your responses for bonus points in the Blackboard course. And you should already be watching this video. The video component. Okay, so what I like to do now is talk a bit about the prompts, and also a bit about, I'll go over what is required for each of the bibliographies that you have to write. So for the prompts, what is a bibliography? Well, a good place to look for an answer to that would be Purdue OWL and chapter 9 from the Abrams text. So once you look up what a bibliography is, my question to you is, do you need to read? So if I have a book and I want to put that book on my bibliography, do I need to read the whole book? And what's the difference between annotating a bibliography and a bibliography that is not annotated? So what I would like to tell you about bibliographies and how they're different from the citation pages that you will find with research-based writing is that the citations that you find with a document that's written like a research paper, those citations, they keep a record of the in-text citations that are actually in the article or the paper that you're reading. So when people write and they use research, they integrate research and they'll say something like, according to Smith, and then there's a quote. Well, Smith should be listed on a citation page at the end of that document because it was cited in the text. And then there are two different names for these citation pages. So if you're using APA style and you're citing sources from the research paper or the document that you were written, in APA style, they call that citation page references. And in MLA style, they call that citation page works cited. I cannot explain to you why, but I can just remind you that there are professionals in rhetoric and writing who are in organizations and they make up these rules. We follow them, they make them up. And then I have some additional prompts here for hopefully getting you to apply what you are learning about creating bibliographies. And as you look at the differences between APA and MLA style, hopefully you will find in our resources that something why you need to know the difference between these two. I actually already give you an answer earlier in this video, like why you need to know the difference between these styles. And then what style should you be using depending on what you are studying? Now it might be MLA or APA, but remember in the Purdue OWL, it lists other documentation styles. So I don't know what everyone is planning on doing, but if you're planning on going and being, I don't know, an engineer, you might have a different documentation style. And then these are just some application questions. So don't feel the need that you have to answer these questions right now. You might want to get started on this task and then come back and go back and forth between answering those questions. Again, you do not have to submit the answers to those prompts unless you want bonus points. All right, so what you're actually doing for the APA style bibliography and the MLA annotated bibliography. So I've asked you to put specific sources or specific texts on your APA style EN 101 course bibliography. And these are the items that should be on it. There's a total of 9 items, if I've counted correctly. And there is a different combination of text for you to put on your MLA course annotated bibliography, because for this version, you will be doing something slightly different from the bibliography, the APA style bibliography. So I ask you for a certain number of texts, only cite them. And then for these two, I ask you to not only cite them, but add summaries for them only. And then for these last 15, I ask you to add both the summaries and the reflections. Again, if you completed parts 1 and 2, you already have much of this information. So once you complete this assignment, I will provide you with an example answer guide that will have just the citations. There'll be an APA version and an MLA version. Again, this is a learning opportunity, so do your best on it, learn from it, so that when you have to use either one of these styles later in the semester, you will have this experience to draw on. Yeah, so I think that's it for this assignment sheet. And then I'm going to make sure you have some additional information from this, just talking about citations and bibliographies and a few examples in a separate video.